Welcome to Season 2 of Behind the Headlines. If you join us for our first series, you already know what we are all about, highlighting the incredible stories of women journalists who are shaping the news. In a world where media has the power to shape opinions, women's voices in journalism are still often overlooked and underrepresented. That's what we are here to change. We are here to share their stories, start important conversations, and hopefully inspire a new generation of women to make their mark in the news industry. So come with us as we explore the untold stories of the women behind the headlines. And welcome to a new episode of Empower Podcast. This is one for Behind the Headlines, where we discover the missing narratives of women journalists. Today, I'm here with Bettie Mbayo, award-winning journalist and co-founder of The Stage Media, Liberia's pioneering fact-checking media institution. Hello and welcome, Bettie. It's such a pleasure to have you here on Empower Podcast with me today.
Thank you, Ilara. It is a pleasure also from my end to represent Liberia, most especially the women, the journalists, and also a fact-checking institution, the Stage Media from Liberia as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. We are here to discover more about your career. What brought you into journalism. It's an opportunity for the audience at home to discover more about your story and also discover more about your country and what's the situation, the position of journalists right now as well. So I like to start my podcast interviews with one question, and is what is the you fighting for today?
I'm fighting for a Liberia wherein a female journalist can practice without influence, without issue of sexual harassment from newsmakers and also their male counterparts as well. I'm fighting for a free press and media wherein journalists can practice without any hindrance from political actors in media operations are not also being infiltrated by politicians to determine what kind of information to be disseminated to the public, especially a country that has suffered years of civil crisis and has a whole lot of false information from health and economy, politics as well. So I'm just ensuring that my reports are published to hold the powerful and accountable and ensure that the rights of people are respected.
Thank you for sharing this with us. It is really an important fight. Actually, several fights that you are conducting at the moment, and obviously, as a journalist, the most important one is the pursuit of the truth and to ensure that you are safe to share the stories, to tell the truth, to give audience access to information and to do that in the more sustainable way. Thank you very much for doing this. I know it's not easy, and we will discover further down with the interview that your work is not easy, and it's very different as well from a journalist maybe based in another country. We do share similarities, obstacles, and challenges, but your work, I think, it's is another level of resilience in the journalism field. So thank you again for the work you're doing, and I'm happy that I'm here to give you a platform to share your story and your fight with a broader audience. I would like to, for the people that are listening to us today, to discover a little bit more about you. So who is Bettie, and what brought you into journalism? What inspired you to become a journalist?
So my mom wanted me to be a doctor with the thought that there was no there was no medical doctor in the family. I started my career at the university, wherein I was persuaded by my mom to do medicine. First two semesters, I had a good grades. When I went to the third semester, it was a kind of nightmare, because and that was not what I desired. So I had to go back to her to have a conversation that I wanted to be a journalist. But then she was kind of afraid with the wave of brutality against journalists, and had to consent that I should do on what I wanted to do. And that's how I started my educational journey around journalism. I decided that since I was pursuing journalism in the university, it was preferable that I start with an institution to have some hands-on experience. So my 4 years of volunteering at an institution was based on one thing: to ensure that I'm ready for a job market, that when I apply, I will have a whole lot of experience and a whole lot of capacity. After 4 years, and I decided to apply at Front Page Africa. I saw that there was a vacant position, and I've always desired the work at Front Page Africa. Is because I knew it was a place to brighten up my career, and also to ensure that the kind of stories that I wanted to report, it was a platform. So I worked at Front Page Africa for over 4 years as well. So then along with another female journalist, Hannah Getamina, we decided to establish the Stage Media with a specific focus on fact checking. And that was because since our country has an experience of the civil crisis, with the wave of COVID, we decided to launch the Stage Media with an intent of ensuring that verifiable information are disseminated, wherein we do not have the same experience of Ebola as well.
So your reporting focus mainly, I would say 100% on Liberia, and since the mid 2000, the political stability that flourished in the aftermath of the Liberian civil war has favored the growth of the press. Nevertheless, and you already mentioned this briefly, but we can talk about it a little bit more. Attacks on journalists continue. There is complete impunity for people that abuse the press. So for everyone that is following us right now, that maybe don't have a deep understanding of what's happening in the country, what's the situation now? How's the situation evolved in the years in regards to freedom of press? And do you think that the election of the new president will bring some sort of, will be more beneficial or not for the press?
We have had long years of civil crisis. I hate to say our country is still fragile, but with the lack of accountability, it is a great challenge, because I would say that our justice system is infiltrated by politicians. And why am I bringing that up? It's because that the first female president who brought up our country from a whole share of the civil crisis, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, signed up to the Table Mountain, and that Table Mountain enabled us to have a Freedom of Information Act. And that Freedom of Information Act is to ask public institutions or public officials on some issues that we may not have a full knowledge of as a journalist. And our country has signed up to this, but is it implemented? No. And then we have the KK Act, an act that decriminalizes speech, right? It means that a journalist cannot be taken to court on what they say or what they write, except a public official wants to file a civil suit. It means that our public officials can sue, but then they cannot sue on criminal charges for journalists. Our country faces the issue of media sustainability. It faces the issue of, of media ownership. Almost all of our media institutions, like over 50%, are owned by politicians. So it places journalists in a position that if a founder of a media institution is supporting a political party, it means that such outlets cannot disseminate specific information in favor of a political party, and it places our journalists in a position with a lack of accountability and a lack of independence. So we have had the scene of serial crisis. Like I had a situation of a lawmaker who I have reported on several times. I know he was involved into an anti-corruption scam, and I reported on him like 2 to 3 times, but I had no idea then that there was a plan to entrap me in a case that uh, obstructed his movement. And politicians found a way around it to intimidate journalists. The past government shut down some media institutions with the intent that they were spreading false information. Politicians always found a way around it to intimidate independent journalists. But it's the issue of media ownership and media sustainability in Liberia that is posing a whole lot of challenge to independent media and independent journalists. I'm just hopeful that journalists can practice independently in a broadcast administration wherein they won't and have an issue of intimidation from the administration. I know that the current information minister has promised that no media institution will be shut down, but that is a public statement. We don't know what is going to be in the next 5 years, right?
Also because he just started election just in January, and I was reading the news. It was also quite interesting. He's a very old politician too, so there are a lot of not concerns, but on the longevity of his terms and his work, and he has a past as an activist. So perhaps yes, we can all embrace this hope, that there will be no repercussion on media, and especially those that are not in the public sector, so they are not funded by government and they work independently. Because at the end of the day, I think in countries like this, but everywhere, because independent journalism is becoming stronger than mainstream media, that's where the real work is done sometimes, where the real news are coming from. So I'm with you to hope for a brighter future. Perhaps maybe we can have an update towards the end of his first year and see what's the situation. But yeah, it's I guess it's quite a challenging. I mean, politicians are inside journalism everywhere. in every country. I think this is one of the biggest obstacle, but there are certain level of corruption and illegal movements in some countries, which are very worrying for the freedom of journalists, for their security. I know that yourself, you experience pressure from politicians, you experience attacked. They also had an impact not just on you, but on your family, which is obviously something that when you start working as a journalist, you need to take in consideration depending on what you're reporting on, but has a massive effect on your life and on the people living next to you. So would you like to tell us a little bit more about this? What happened to you and how you navigated this extremely big challenge?
So at the Supreme Court, I decided to do an article on how justices are living into their own homes, but the national budget is still paying for those homes. Almost all of the judicial reporters had an issue on why I want to place the justices in such position. But I was just concerned about how a country who has continuous budget deficits will keep running in circle on issues, especially for justices of the Supreme Court. So we published that article. I know my editor was invited at the Supreme Court, and afterwards, front page kept on running. And then a known article was about the lawmaker of Korean, Jide, who had his niece with him, but he impregnated her. And my colleague from Front Page Africa was the one who broke this story, Henry Kamal. So I have this tendency that I do not want to report on the surface. I always want to do a follow-up and ensure that such story has other angles instead of just an on face. Yeah. If this lawmaker is saying that he did not do such thing, can we do a bit more investigation on if it's true that there was a niece with him? And can we check at the schools? Can we and ask the community if there was this person with him? And can we know can we have more angles as well to this article? And being a supportive boss, he said, well, that's fine. I'm here to support you. When I went to the school in the community to ask if it's true that this need was with him. And yes, that was confirmed. And I felt there was a need to know more. So said that he has relocated her to Grandville. So going to find this niece, it was an over 15-hour journey. And I was afraid, but I felt there was a need to break the story. So where this girl was, it's not a car park, it's a motorbike. You must be on a bicycle to reach to where she was. So arriving into the county, there was no pronouncement for me or anyone. And the motorcyclist was the one who took me to a village, and through my investigation, I was able to locate her. But when I located her, it was very clear that her parents decided to cover up for this lawmaker on grounds that they have received some financial help from him. So, but then At that time, she had given birth. So the medical first. So I mean, I did like several different angles of the articles just to corroborate the claim that he had impregnated his niece. Just to hold him accountable as a lawmaker who should ensure that people or citizens are safe through his lawmaking power, and also to inform the public that what he said that he did not know this person was totally untrue. Yeah. So, and that story, I had to relocate from my home because my family was targeted, and I had to go away like 2 months from the country with my kids. Most especially, I had a 1-year-old child at that time. So yeah, so I had to relocate uh, with them for a while. So then I did another article on the first referral hospital in the Republic of Liberia, is the John F. Kennedy Hospital. And at this facility, my husband is a medical doctor, but there is the line of professionalism between us. So there was this source who informed me that over 18 mothers were at the facility who had given birth, and their kids were either moving from one state to another. For example, uh, some of some of these mothers um, had lost their children, but they were confined there because of their inability to afford their bills. So I went in and did an investigation and did my first publication of the article. In that article, it was it was the last semester for my husband to be a medical doctor, and the chief medical officer was his professor in that semester. And at that point, it was a moment for me to either skip my marriage or yeah, or a be apart. So I'm trying to say that at this chief medical officer, I told my husband that I should not I shouldn't have published such article because he should have had a control over me. So it was a moment for him to repeat the last course that to have qualified him to be a doctor. Yeah. So we had to vote on a separation, or proposed separation, or planned separation. It's not a fact separation, but we just had to do it. I mean, that's that's how far our media space is. So we had to go on like 2 months separation. I had to go back to my mom, yeah, to enable him to complete his studies successfully. And that I've said over and over to my colleagues that they will always find a way to intimidate you, but that should not stop you from being independent, from ensuring that they are held accountable, from ensuring that the right stories are told at the right time.
Thank you, Betty, for sharing these particular events that happened to you. I need to say I admire your resilience. Every time I hear stories of attack on journalists, what strikes me is exactly the resilience of the colleagues that, you know, they keep doing their job despite all the difficulties, but also, you know, how much this job is going to take away from you and how much you need to put into this job to make sure that you're doing it properly. If you don't care about saying the right story at the right time, like you say, you will live a much easier career, much easier life. But then there are certain stories that need to be told, and thanks to journalists like you, we still have them on the front page. And but maybe we don't acknowledge too much the risk. Um, we acknowledge it in, you know, within journalists. We are aware of this within our own field, but I am not too sure that people are doing other jobs. They really know what's going on behind that headline, behind that article that you wrote, and the consequence that this can have on your life. So again, thank you for sharing it and for helping me to share this also with the audience and for us to reflect. Next time we're reading an investigative article, to actually maybe think about it. What's the life for that person? What's the consequences? And just, you know, be a little bit more aware of what's happening. But when we look maybe perhaps closer to women journalists in Liberia, what's the situation? But maybe what are the biggest challenges that you faced growing up as a journalist in your own country, and what did you see are the improvement maybe that have been made so far?
The first challenge of a female journalist in Liberia is a safe space wherein she's going to report without being sexually harassed by other or male colleagues or male bosses or newsmakers. Another challenge is the self-confidence. Um, I feel that we do not have a kind of mentorship to empower young women to know the ins and outs, the challenges they gonna face as they step into the field of journalism. And the issue of capacity building as well. It's another thing. It's a challenge because at the institution that I started one journalism, I was the only female among over 9 to 10 men are writing stories. But I ensure that my stories must be on top notch. That it's going to be in the headlines. All I have to say to female journalists in Liberia and around the world is that know who you want to be and why you cannot just be replaced by anyone. And if there are barriers, find another avenue that will maintain your professionalism and your independence.
Thank you for this reminder. I hope everyone that is listening today taking note. I always say that your network is your net worth, and the people around you, they inspire you and they motivate you to continue to push forward. And you co-founded the Stage Media, which is Liberia's pioneering fact-checking media institution. And the importance of this is you wanted to fact check all the news and to be more accountable towards the audience that the news you were sharing were correct. But I'm curious to know maybe a little bit more about how the idea came up, how the Stage Media has evolved. 2020 now is 2024, so 4 years, and maybe what do you foresee for the future of the Stage Media?
It is a precious moment to be reminded that it's 4 years of co-funding an institution with the aim of fact-checking and investigative journalism. So in 2020, Liberia experienced COVID-19, and there were a lot of claims. But then we came into being a month before our senatorial elections. And since Facebook is widely used in Liberia, we decided to see how can we verify content from politicians, their surrogates, media institutions, where in our country don't have to experience a civil crisis, disseminating verified information for the public good. So, after having our share of experience from different media institutions, we decided to establish the state media. Our aim has been on at least 3 pillars of fact checking, investigative journalism, and data journalism, and at the same time research. We have not delved into our research component because of no funding. So we are a very young team. We are passionate about exploring new forms of journalism. Currently, we're a team of 8. Of those 8, we have 5 of us are volunteers, and 3 are on payrolls. And we are open to accepting claims from the public. Our websites are very functional. We are the first verified institution of the IFCN, and that places us in a position that we have a lot more to do. So what we did to increase audience engagement was to translate our rating and fact checks into our local language. We do speak English. It is a standard language, but we have a pidgin form of English that is called colloquial. So we produce all of our fact checks into colloquial, and that is disseminated wherein citizens can be aware of what our public officials are saying, and then we also start to engage into media literacy. And why we decided to engage into media literacy is to enable a space in a country that has less than 50% illiterate people. So it means that we need to engage experts on trending topics, on how we can inform our citizens on those trending topics, and what are the issues affecting our citizens as well. So we also thought on expanding our reach, but as we speak, as I said from the start, we've applied for several grants. It's kind of impossible, but we are still hopeful that we will consistently apply, and our fact checks can be disseminated not only in Masorado, but across other counties. So then, it is a start. We want to see stage media across the 15 counties. We also want to see how universities can start fact check clubs. We also want to see how fact checking can be embedded into the curriculum in almost all of the universities. We want to see a partnership with local media institutions in and around Liberia. But Again, it is the sustainability issue.
It's a big work, no? Big job. I think institutions like yours in several different key countries are much needed. When I introduced you at the beginning, I said you are an award-winning journalist. We actually didn't talk about this, but I guess now the audience is also a better understanding of your career so far. So you receive different prestigious awards, including the Thomson Reuters Young Journalist Fellowship when you were reporting for the Front Page Africa, the Media Foundation for West Africa Anti-Corruption Award, and we all know in the field what does it mean to be recognized for your work, and it's obviously an honor. But I'm more interested to know in which way they affected you, maybe personally and professionally, and what's the impact of this award on your career and on your personal life.
Being an award-winning journalist places me in a position to be accountable to myself. It's because I'm a representation of a country that is small, that has an issue of corruption, that has an issue of the civil crisis, that has an issue of a little or no research on the internet space. I feel that being in awarded places me in a position to empower other female journalists that are not known to the profession, but has a desire of being like me, or probably more like me. So I'm always cutting opportunities for young women journalists. In 2019, I established the She Writes, She Leads, and that is also embedded into the state media, but with a specific focus on how we can mentor young females from Nigeria with the aim of being a good journalist, an independent journalist, a passionate one. I'm not a fan of speaking of all of the awards, but I am passionate that females will not be a shadow of themselves. They will explore avenues.
To conclude this beautiful interview, I remember the first question I asked you at the beginning. This is a little bit the opposite. So, what is that you wish to stop fighting for?
I'm not sure because I'm always concerned about the truth and nothing about the truth. So there is nothing that I want to stop fighting for. I know that as I age, it's my hope that the new generation of female journalists can focus on women as not just victims, but those who are breaking barriers to ensure that our country are on a greater height.
Betty, thank you very much for this interview. It was really enlightening for me to discover more about your journey and your story, and I hope that everyone that follow us today. And thank you again for coming on When Power Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Season 2 of Behind the Headlines. I hope you are feeling inspired and energized by the conversation. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Wempower UK and visit www.wempower.co for more uplifting stories of ordinary, extraordinary women who are changing the world. Don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter and subscribe to our podcast channels. And as I always say, together we empower women. Till the next time.